I don't sleep.
Ah, no way.
Man, that's a mean question.
That's mean. Very mean.
Like the fans of jazz are unique to jazz. Somebody might dig a pop star, but they wore this dress to the award show and they had their hair this way and stuff like that. Was jazz guys are like, did you hear him go to the flat five on the bridge? Because like nobody, we're like digging the technique. I don't think that jazz can be approached casually. Like, I think I'll learn some jazz today. No, it's not. It's not. It's like I think I'll devote my entire life to something, and then it's pretty much that's how it goes. I don't really use a lot of borrowed licks. It's not like, oh, that's the Charlie Parker lick. I'll kind of take someone's idea and kind of make it fit my own hands and my own way of jazz will always be there because I think people always going to love it. I think it's just never going to be as popular as it was. Block after block, you see like legendary jazz musicians and all that stuff. That's probably never going to happen. I think if music has heart and doesn't sound like a marketing team put it together, then it's all pretty much good. It doesn't really matter what the genre is, as long as it's honest.
Great. Hi, Paul.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. And also, just want to let you know I'm an amateur jazz music lover. So I might ask some very amateur questions. But to start, can you briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Paul Bomar. I'm a jazz guitarist from North Carolina in the U.S.
Great. I would like to ask you some story about you with music. When did you start learning music? And when did you start learning jazz?
So I first started learning music in general when I took piano lessons when I think I was probably 9 years old. Um,
Mm.
and to paint a broader picture, I can't play piano at all. So yeah, it didn't take. But when I was 13, my cousin, he had a guitar. And I sat in my lap and kind of messed around with it. I was like, I kind of want one of these. And so I think I got a cheap guitar for Christmas. And then that was my entire life from that moment on. It was just playing guitar. I got into jazz when I was 16. Um, I heard a Miles Davis album, the album Roundabout Midnight,
Mm.
and I listened to it once. I was like, all right, that's cool. But then it kind of it kind of sat with me for a day, and I went back home the next day, listened to it again, and I started hearing like the communication between all the instruments and the group improvisation and just like everything going on. I was like, man, this is where it's at. Uh, but like, so I have ADHD really bad, and so I never went to music school, and my parents weren't trying to pay for me to have all these guitar lessons or anything like that. So it was from then on, it was kind of just like learning about jazz and picking up techniques where I could find them. And I played guitar all that time, but I didn't attempt to play jazz until I was probably 30. And I'm 49 now. So it was quite a while between the time I became obsessed with jazz and even came close to attempt to playing it. But ever since then, that's what I've been doing. So here I am.
Wow. And how did you decide to become a professional or full-time musician?
Well, I still have a day job. So, um, but I'm very fortunate in that I get to perform a lot. I do get it's music has kind of become my second job because I perform and record pretty frequently, and sometimes teach. But I do still have like a daytime job. You know,
How do you balance between your music job and, and your daytime job?
I don't sleep.
Ah, no way.
No, I mean, no, I mean, you just do it. Like you. So I work from home, and yeah, I'll just sit at my desk for 8 hours, and then I go pack my guitar up, and I get in the car and go to the gig. You just do it. That's everybody's. Any like local jazz musician, that's pretty much their life.
If you don't, if you didn't go to music school, how did you learn all those great techniques and musics? Did you just by listening and transcribing and become more sophisticated, or I want to know the secret.
So, well, I mean, remember, this is a long time. Like, I've been playing guitar for 35 years. So, I'm 16 and I hear that Miles Davis record, and I hear that like the notes they're focusing on aren't necessarily part of like any kind of pentatonic scale, right?
Right.
So and then this is just the way that my mind works. Like I would take like a minor scale and break it down and try and like approach what I'm hearing, you know, Sonny Rollins doing or something like that. Just kind of breaking down the music knowledge I already had from piano and other types of music I had played before, which was a lot of like R&B and funk and stuff like that. And so I would take that knowledge and try to like take what I'm learning from jazz and kind of make it all kind of fit together so that I'm able to play it, because there's no way I could have been successful if I had gone to like a music school or something like that, because I don't learn very well from in a classroom environment at all. Uh,
Me too.
yeah, it's very difficult for us, isn't it?
Right.
Um, but yeah, and it was really a lot of listening. Just like if you hear me listening to music, I'm probably listening to jazz. I love all forms of music, but you gotta keep that in your blood. You gotta keep the rhythms right here. You gotta be able to like easily recall that feeling when it's your time to play. I haven't done a lot of transcribing just because that's not certainly how my mind works. I can't really focus on that. I wish I could, because I know that a lot of people have been very successful in implementing that tool. It's just not something that I can really do. Uh, but yeah, it's just picking up little techniques here and there, listening a lot. Like I listen to a lot of piano players for one thing, because I like to play in like a trio format where I'm essentially the piano and the horn. So I'm comping chords and playing single note solos and things like that. So I listen to a lot of piano players for that kind of energy. Um, yeah, it's with me. It's never been a focused approach. It's basically just learning what I can where I can. Going to jams, seeing what the other players are doing, and like, hey man, what did you do over those changes when you're doing? And you have a conversation with me to learn. And most jazz musicians are willing to share what they know with anybody that asks.
Right.
So yeah, it again not a very focused approach, but that's how I did it.
Great. I think it's very intuitive and straightforward. Even the transcribing, the purpose is to master the improvisation. But
Yeah.
you could totally skip that by listening and just create melodies based on what you hear, right?
And that's kind of what I did.
Yeah.
And if you listen to like my single note playing and things like that, it I don't really use a lot of borrowed licks. It's not like, oh, that's the Charlie Parker lick. No, it's not like that. Usually I'll kind of take someone's idea and kind of make it fit my own hands and my own way of processing music, I think.
Right. Great. Maybe a stupid question. Do you still practice these days? Or you don't
Yes.
practice? You still practice?
Oh, I always practice. Yeah. Not for hours, not like I did when I was young, but I still play every day. Even if it's just for a few minutes. But usually I try to devote a little bit of time every day. Now, it's funny that you're asking me that. I just had carpal tunnel surgery on this
Yeah.
hand.
I
And
saw in
so,
the red note.
yeah, and so I just went 3 weeks without playing. And that's the first time that's ever happened.
Wow.
but I did start playing again yesterday, and I can play for a few minutes at a time, and I'm okay. I'm not damaging anything, but it'll probably be another couple of weeks before I can at least think about playing a gig or something. But I'll be okay. It's just that it's really slowed things down for a month or two.
Is this because you play guitar or something else?
Yeah, just lots and lots of guitar playing. You know,
Oh my God.
um,
Wow.
it happens to a lot of us. I'm an older guy, so it's you know the muscles and the bones and everything like that, they get worn out, and the nerves get worn down, and you got to get them fixed. It's unfortunate, but it could be a lot worse.
How's the recovery?
I'm doing everything the doctor tells me to do. Um, I can't lift much of my left hand until I've healed, and like I just try to baby the hand and not really do very much with it. Um, I can play video games, which is pretty cool. Doing all the but and I can play guitar. I can play. It's just a little sore to
Mhm.
play. But I try to limit really any of that to just a little bit per day, and then the rest I have a little pillow which I can't find. I have a little arm pillow. Just rest my arm on my pillow and
Mhm.
type with one hand while I'm working.
I see. Um, so if we look at jazz as an industry, how do you see jazz in the United States in these days? Or you could use North Carolina as example if you want.
Well, that's an interesting comparison. Um, as an industry, it is, and it probably always will be a niche product. It's it it's only going to be consumed by people with an artistic mindset, I believe, and that have the patience and cultivation to sit and listen to something which is, in essence, abstract.
Mhm.
Um, it's never going to be, like a multi-million dollar industry just because it can't be. Uh, us jazz musicians would love it if that was the case, but that's just not how it's going to be. Now, the one thing about it though that's really inspiring is that year after year, more and more young jazz musicians are on the scene. Like it's not drying up at all. Like there's more and more incredible musicians coming. Like Jocelyn Gould is one of my favorite guitar players. She's got to be like 28 or something. Amazing guitarist with so much just depth to her playing. I wish I could play as well as her. Great chord voicings, great single note, and she can sing too. So like, she's gonna take over the world. Like she's gonna do absolutely great. And then there's gonna be someone young come right behind her and be incredible there too. So it's not a very lucrative industry, but it is one that will be around for probably ever because people love this music
Right.
on a level that I don't think a lot of other genres. I don't think a lot of other genres have the fans of jazz are unique to jazz. You know what I mean? Because like
Mhm.
somebody might dig a pop star, but it's like, oh well, they wore this dress to the award show, and then they had their hair this way and stuff like that. Was jazz guys are like, did you hear him go to the flat five on the bridge? Because like nobody, because we're like digging the technique and like man, his single note stuff was so subtle, but like he blended these chords in, and that's what we're into. And so I think jazz is maybe a little bit more unique as far as how fans show appreciation. and again, it's cool because I think it's always going to be there.
That's so funny. I can totally understand what you said.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
sometimes for the people who don't like jazz, that's also the problem, saying we are nerds,
yeah. Well, and
too academic.
yeah, and you'll be talking to like a non-jazz person, and like you've got to be like, well, how can I communicate this to them so that they can appreciate it without me sounding like just a complete, music nerd, and it's not easy.
I understand generally it's a niche, but many people still love it. But may I ask, because you said you already play guitar for 30 years, if
35,
you
yeah.
look at the history in the USA, there should be some like up and down fluctuation times. That does it? Like for example, in China right now, it's like blooming, the jazz industry, even though it's a
Really?
niche. But like 20 years ago, nobody knows. So I'm wondering what it looks like in the good old days in the US when jazz is like big, even though it's a niche, but has a very strong performance and all those stuff. And and when are the like low times?
Well, that's an interesting question. So, for the time when jazz was the most popular, I had not been born. Um,
Right.
I was born in 1976, and even back then, and I have no memories of jazz clubs from when I was 3, but like I think that the 70s and 80s, and basically the back when people went and saw live music, I think probably jazz flourished a little bit more back then because people were still interested in seeing music performed in front of them.
Right.
Um, but then you might say that about a lot of different musical genres, like the blues and maybe reggae and stuff like that.
Hmm.
You know, where live performance is an essential component of that music. Um, in the 90s, there was the young lions of jazz. It was like Roy Hargrove and all those guys, incredible players. And jazz kind of like peeked its head up, and you know like a few more people started appreciating it. The Marsalis brothers were coming on the scene,
Hmm.
you know
Winter Masala.
and I was like, I was that age, like I was like 16 and all of it was happening. I thought it was really cool. But it's hard to really say about ebbs and flows with jazz. Jazz will always be there because I think people are always going to love it. I think it's just going to maybe look a little bit different as times change, and as like most things do. As far as ebbs and flows, like it's just never going to be as popular as it was, when all the guys were in Harlem and you could go block after block to see like legendary jazz musicians and all that stuff. That's probably never going to happen again.
Right. Hmm. And what kind of jazz you like most?
I like straight ahead jazz, just swinging, small groups. That's what I listen to the most. That's what I like to play. Um, think like late 50s, early 60s, like that whole vibe, like that when all those amazing albums came out. Yeah, that's what I listen to. That's what I try to emulate.
And you play a lot of bebop.
Yeah. I like uh I like more like songbook type standards than like crazy bebop tunes. I like to be as musical as possible within jazz. Um so like I would rather play what's it oh now that I want to think of the tune, of course, I can't remember one of my favorite tunes to play. Like But Not For Me is a
Not for
gorgeous
me.
tune. But not yeah, it changes are really fun to play, and the melody is very beautiful. It's even if it's played instrumentally, ba ba da ba da ba ba da ba. Like it has a very lyrical quality to it. Whereas a lot of the bebop tunes, they're super fun to play, but like you couldn't really latch on to anything there if you're looking for a melody just to hum along to or something like that. So I tend to gravitate towards the old songbook tunes. I love Come Rain or Come Shine. Love that one. Uh, Burke's Works, that Dizzy Gillespie tune. Oh, it's killer. Um, yeah, personally, I tend to go for the more mel- um, melodic tunes
Mm,
over the crazy bebop heads.
cool. I have some interesting question comes later about what you just said, but uh,
Okay.
can you name some of your favorite jazz musicians?
Yeah.
Name some.
Um, sure. As far as guitar players, Kenny Burrell, um, and Wes Montgomery. I mean, these
Hmm.
the guys that everybody says.
Yeah.
Uh, there's also a Canadian guitarist that I'm fanatical about named Ed Bickert, and if you have not listened to this guy play, go find some of his music immediately. His single note solos are perfect; they're amazing, but it's his chord voicings, and like he was, I don't know, thinking like light years ahead of everybody else as far as how he would build chords and use them to accompany other soloists as well as using those chords in his solos. Nobody has ever sounded like him. Nobody.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Ed Bickert. If you have not checked him out, go do it. You will
Okay.
thank me.
Okay, I'll check.
Uh, Peter Bernstein is the guy who's playing now. Incredible guitar player. Nobody has cooler single note phrasing than him. Um, like I mentioned before, Jocelyn Gould, she's incredible. I love piano players like Bill Evans and Red Garland and Oscar Peterson.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I could listen to anything with Milt Jackson on Vibes, the guy from MJQ. I could listen to anything with Milt Jackson on. I love it. Um, Annette Cohen, the clarinetist, she is unbelievable. It's I would dare say she's about as perfect as a musician can get, and it's on clarinet, which is a pretty unique sound. That's just a few. I could go on for an hour about.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah, good enough. And how do you, I think you kind of touched that, but how do you see other musics like country music, pop, rock, hip hop?
I mean, I think that there's good examples of every genre. Um, like I listen to a lot of hip hop, like with my son and when I'm driving around and stuff like that, and I dig it. It I think if music has heart and doesn't sound like a marketing team put it together, then it's all pretty much good. It doesn't really matter what
Right,
the genre is, as long as it's honest. You know.
right. So it's a, I have a question about choosing. If you have to pick one between these two, what will you pick? Rhythm and melody. You cannot have both.
Man, that's a mean question.
That's mean, very mean.
I guess. I mean, if you think,
Groove or melody?
I mean, it's got to be groove, right? Like the groove's got to be there, or what else? Or what else? Or you've just got sound, right? I mean, yeah, you could play chords, but if there's nothing for the mind to grasp onto, then it's just sound. It's just noodling. Even if it's something played rubato, there's still the essence of rhythm there. So I would say rhythm.
Great, great. Um, so some questions about learning jazz guitar. What are the most important basics for learning jazz guitar for
Know
you?
your fretboard. Yeah, you got to know your fretboard. Uh, Fretboard literacy, I think, is what they call it. But yeah, just you know, know where you're at all times on your fretboard and know how that note relates to the underlying chord changes of the tune, so that you'll always know where to land. Um, but I still think number one is listening. I mean, if you don't listen to jazz, how do you expect to play it? And like, I don't think that jazz can be approached casually. Like, I think I'll learn some jazz today. No, it's not. That's not.
Agree.
So it's like I think I'll devote my entire life to something, and then it's pretty much that's how it goes. So yeah, you gotta listen all the time. You gotta love it. You gotta love what you're listening to, and then know your instrument, know your fretboard, know your chords, know your scales, and then throw it all away and play.
So I think from what you just from your story, I can feel music theory might not play very important during your learning process. But I still want to ask, do you think music theory is important in jazz?
Definitely.
Or what's the relationship between practice and listening and music theory?
I don't think that anyone can reasonably get by in jazz without having some musical theory knowledge. Um, you may not be the fastest sight reader out there. I'm certainly not, but you still got to have some really foundational musical knowledge to be able to find your ways through some of these tunes. Um, I can read music, and I don't know how anyone could play jazz who can't read music. I don't read music very fast, but that's how I learn a lot of tunes is by reading them. Um, so yeah, I mean,
But you don't need very complicated theories, right? Just fundamentals.
I would say that could probably get yeah, because that's about where I'm at. Like I said, I never went to music school or anything like that, so it was I would say knowing the fundamental stuff, but not fundamental for guitar players, because that's a completely different thing. Because jazz is when you go way beyond what a normal guitar student is taught. So you do have to have some theoretical knowledge outside of the basic guitar stuff. Um, but yeah, that's the only note I would give as far as that goes.
Hmm.
Theoretical knowledge, but outside of guitar theory, because that's different. That's a
Right,
completely
right.
different like
It's
way
about
of tuning.
music.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I see. Do you have any tips for people who are starting to learn jazz guitar specifically?
The way that I learned is not very typical. Learn with somebody if possible. Uh,
Hmm.
find a super killer musician and you know attach yourself to that person and learn as much as you can. I wish I had done it that way, but I didn't. But I think that's get a really good teacher. Go to school if it's something that you can do, if it's something you can afford. If that's not possible for you, there's tons of free resources out there. YouTube is a wealth of knowledge. Like you can just type in blue jazz licks and learn, hundreds of different jazz licks if that's how you want to do it. Get on Amazon, look for all the books if you prefer book learning, and you can look at all the reviews for the books to see if like, oh, well, they hated this one, I'm not buying this one, and everyone's learning style is different. So just basically just try to find what's best for you. I know that's not a great answer, but uh, yeah, the way I learned was just so atypical. So yeah,
It's great.
that's the only advice I've got.
Great. I basically that's how I learn
Right
through
on.
through website, YouTube. Now I have you. I interview a lot of musicians. I just every time have with this conversation I learn. These are great.
Thanks. Yeah, it's I get that's one beautiful thing about jazz is it's very individualistic. Like you know
Yes.
like you and I are going to interpret the same tune in very different ways because we're different people, and
Right.
that's one of the beautiful things about it. And I think that I know that jazz fans definitely realize and appreciate that, but I don't know if people outside the world of jazz understand just how individual everybody sounds.
Right. Wow. Perfect. My last question is, if you don't play guitar, what instrument do you like to work on or you like to play?
Well, I've never played this instrument before in my life, just so you know, but I love the clarinet. It's my
Clarinet.
favorite instrument. I love it. Like in straight ahead jazz, it's not used very much, but when it
Right.
is, I think it sounds so cool. Um, like Anat Cohen, who I mentioned earlier, she's just the way she makes that instrument sound. And there's some other clarinetists out there that sound really cool and really bold and like very swinging and stuff like that. I love that little instrument. I think it's great. I don't personally even know any other clarinetists. Like there's nobody around that I could gig with that has a clarinet, but I just really love the instrument. I would totally study that if guitar never happened. You know what I mean?
I see. Great, Paul. I finished my questions, and do you have anything to share? And or if I'm not touching everything, do you have any extra stuff to share?
Um, just I'm on all the social things, so just go look up my name and I'm on the thing and follow me.
Great. They will do it.
Cool, cool.
Thank you so much, Paul. Yeah,
Oh
we're
no,
done with the interview. We could have other casual chats if you have
cool.
anything. Yeah,
No, this is fun. Thank you.
no problem. No problem. Are you going to jam tonight? Oh, you are already 8 p.m., right?
Yeah. So I already played for a few minutes today, and so I need to rest my hand. So I probably won't play until maybe a little bit tomorrow morning. Um, it's going to be a while, unfortunately, before I can play a lot. Because it's I can definitely play the same. It's just that it gets really sore. You know. Uh, Plus, I'm still letting this hand heal. It's only been a few weeks, so like. But yeah, I, I got the surgery just because my left arm was getting numb and aching and stuff like that to the point where it would like wake me up at night because it hurt so
Wow.
much.
Mm,
Yeah, so that's the only reason I went ahead with the surgery is just because it was becoming unlivable. You know what I
mm,
mean?
wow.
And so I'll just have to lay off of the gigs for like a little over a month, and that'll be fine.
I see. Actually, I have one more last question. I just think of. Mm, do you have any moments that you hate music, or I don't want to play at all, or just so tiring?
I mean, it's it's moments like when you play when you just got done playing like 2 hours worth of jazz and someone asks you to play ACDC. It's like, I mean, I love ACDC and that's cool, but did you not just hear the 2 hours of jazz I was just playing in this tiny restaurant where ACDC would be wildly inappropriate? I'm sure that you have noticed that I am here with my jazz trio. Why on earth would you ask me to? No. That's when you're just like,
Do you play then? You still
uh,
play?
well, no, because you feel like, I have like a big arch top guitar and it's not dialed in for rock. And like there's an upright bass guy over here and a trumpet right here. It's like, and it's not like we've rehearsed ACDC tunes in our jazz combos. So no, we don't have anything like that ready or,
Yeah.
nah. It's, it's just, sometimes I do wish the rest of the world knew a little bit more about music, just a little bit, to where like weird exchanges like that just didn't happen. But, I guess I really shouldn't complain. It's not, they're just trying to be involved, but sometimes, man.
Wow, so interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it, Paul. Thank you so
Cool.
much. Yeah. Do you have any other extra stuff to ask or share?
Was this okay? I've never done this before.
Yeah, I think it's great. I just need to
All right.
spend some time editing, and I will give you the edited video as well.
Okay. Is it cool
You
if I
could,
post it and stuff?
yeah, yeah, you could feel free to use. There's no any commercial stuff involved. Yeah, it's
Okay. Cool.
only
Cool.
out of my curiosity and I eager to learn.
I hope my answers weren't too long because I tend to ramble.
You won't. Perfect. I love those answers.
All right. Cool. Cool.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No problem. Hey, this was really fun, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Yeah,
All right,
bye,
man.
Paul. Yeah,
Bye. See you, man.
yeah.